Hi everyone, welcome to our SLS Spotlight today. I'm Zoe and this is Kylin, and we're both from the AIED office here at ETD. As you can see, we have 3 guests with us and we're so privileged to have them here with us today. So maybe you can share more about yourself to our audience.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. Hi everyone, I'm Kwang Wen from RI. I'm currently teaching at the JC side and I'm teaching chemistry.
Hi, I'm Adeline. I'm from CHIJ Kellogg. I'm an upper primary teacher, currently teaching primary 5. I teach English and also math.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm from Tegi Primary School. I'm teaching 2 levels, primary 3, maths and science, and primary 6 science. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So as you guys can see, the theme for today is really enhancing teaching and learning with AI. And I believe each one of these guests have had their own experience with AI. So maybe just to start us off, how did you guys actually come into AI as teachers?
I go first.
Free flow. Anyone?
Gentlemen first.
I think for me, my AI journey started in 2018. So that was when I started picking up programming and I said, what should I build?
Wow.
And I thought one of the things that I don't really want to do is mark. So since 2018, I've been trying to write create a self-marking machine. And I'm so glad that now we have that in SLS already. So that was pretty much how I started, and along the way, just started exploring more AI-related stuff.
Well, for myself, my school is actually in the pilot of this language feedback assistant. So with that program, it actually allows us to kind of like mark our English essays, our composition. The system was able to pick out things like grammar, basic grammar, spelling, and punctuation. And it helps the teachers to actually, instead of having to look through everything, we could already see the annotated highlights so that, we can double check whether, this is correct and it was accurately picked out. At the same time, we also thought through it, and we also found that it was very useful for the students, because when we actually, after we kind of like look through the mistakes and all, and we send the responses back to the students, they themselves can actually take a look at what was picked out, and they could actually self-learn as well. And if this was, continuous, they could, start to see a pattern. What they always make mistakes, like is it always a spelling error or is it always a grammatical error, things like that. So that was one of the first things, or the few things that we actually started doing in SLS with AI. Yeah.
Yeah, glad to hear that, through this experience, students perhaps can also be a bit more self-directed in their learning.
Yeah.
And they feel more motivated because they are receiving this feedback from the system and they can really act on it. Yeah. What about you, Alexis?
Okay, so mine started when ChatGPT came out, which is end of last year, beginning of this year. So first I started using it to craft messages to parents, and then started using it for productivity, productivity. For instance, using AppScript to make things go faster, and also started using it for consolidation of lessons. Slowly I went into the teaching and learning portion. So I used the songr.ai to get the students to craft the lyrics, and then we use that to generate a song.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And after that, then when plugins came out with ChatGPT, then I wanted to explore it. So then there was this Chat OCR, so I used that to kind of scan students' work and also give feedback to it as well. And the most recent one, I think it was with the P6 science, getting the students to key in open-ended answers, then using productivity tools like Zapier to integrate, what they key into the Google form with ChatGPT, and then with the Google Docs, so that it can give feedback to the students. So generally, it helps the students be self-directed learners and for them to get immediate feedback on their answers, and for them to change, and adjust accordingly. Yeah.
I find it quite interesting that actually many of you are speaking about feedback. And if the audience is wondering, there are 2 feedback assistants that are actually coming out in R20 in SLS that will be happening in early December. So some of the tools or the features that our guests are actually alluding to, for example, the short answer feedback assistant as well as the language feedback assistant for English, these will be made available in December. So do stick around because later we'll show some videos and some screens from that also to help you to get a better view of what these tools can actually do. Yeah, so maybe jumping back to our guest panelists here, maybe for Kwang Wen, because you seem quite into all this coding and stuff, how would you encourage people to explore AI tools, or what steps do you take to actually reach that stage where you can make your own apps and all?
I think first and foremost, I think it's to be able to scope a project. Because when I first started learning programming, I just followed the curriculum. I had no projects to aim for, and I just kind of sort of stopped. But when I had to build certain projects, that was when I started to pick up bits and pieces of programming. And it also helped that there was COVID, so I was locked at home, nothing to do. So
More time.
I picked up all the rest of the programming languages. So having things to build, I think that's the first step. And then when after that, the rest you can just go and pick it up online. Sometimes I tell people that YouTube was my best teacher, and yeah, I guess that works.
Maybe you want to share about like some of the apps
Projects that you
the
did.
projects, so we can learn more.
Okay, maybe I'll share a few, so that I don't spoil the surprise. So the first one that we have actually used in our school for the chemistry department is this smart search tool. So what it does is it allows students to ask a question, and because we know that the pain point of students when they study is flipping through the notes and not knowing where the exact one line is or one paragraph, or even because we have our lecture videos recorded, the students will need to scrub through the entire video to know where it is. And so we developed this tool. This smart search tool is able to find out what are the top, let's say, 3 to 5 relevant sources for the students, so that it will show them what the context is, and show them the page number. So with our lecture notes, they can go there and flip to the right page to learn the content. Or even for the videos, it will tell them the specific timestamp, give them a link. They click on it, it will start. Let's say it starts at 1 minute 20 seconds. It will start from there and it will play on.
Wow, I wish I had that as a student. Not like the amount of notes they have to scrub through, and then sometimes your handwriting also like ooh. Yeah.
So why doesn't the system give them the answer immediately?
Because I think number one, giving them the answers, they can essentially go to Google or just ask ChatGPT, right? But the issue with that is it doesn't ground itself to the A-level syllabus. And I think we want our students to learn the correct things from our notes. So what we do is, instead of telling them the answer, we suggest, and we also want them to have the habit of searching for information on their own. We just help them to cut short the process of doing it. And I think to us that is important, because if ChatGPT gives them the wrong answers and we endorse it, that will be quite a big issue.
Looks good. It helps to build student ownership as well.
Yeah, I think what we're hearing is also that with all these AI tools that are freely available now, it's also important to teach our students how to discern the information, because ChatGPT, it can be quite hallucinatory. It can just spout out all sorts of things that may or may not be facts, right? Because it's just picking out the next most probable word and stringing it together in a sentence. So I think that's something that we can be more mindful as teachers. So wondering if perhaps there are certain ways in which you teach your students about this AI literacy skills when you're using AI.
I think for now, because there is an age limitation in terms of the use of AI, so at primary school, I think the teachers need to be very careful, because the students themselves are not, you're not supposed to be using ChatGPT. But that some students, at home, they are probably doing it already. Yeah. So is the importance, to, like you said, to teach them what is fact. How do you discern what is right and what is wrong? I think is really the skill of going back to check back from facts, like maybe check back to your original source, being your textbook, your notes that is given, or even to, sometimes you maybe Google, but you need to Google what is right. factual content. So these are things that we also try to teach the students in school. How do we look at this site? How do you know that this is a valid site? Whether this is authentic? Do you take from Channel News Asia, Straits Times, or do you take from some other, funny website that may not be may not be really accurate and true lah. So I think these are skills that students of today need to start picking up and start learning, because these are the 21st CC skills that is necessary. Yeah. So it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be easy to stop the students from accessing what is out there, because it's really free for all. But it's a constant reminder on us as teachers to remind them what is that need, to be really mindful of what they are looking at, and how to discern what is true, what is not, and how to even look at it and say, okay, I know this is not true. How do I check? Do I have a trusting adult to check? Because at primary school, I think we do still encourage them to go back to their parents or going back to their teachers, somebody they can trust to find out, because they are still at the age of developing that discernment. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's also something that MOE takes really quite seriously as well. So we do have MOE ethics framework for AI in education. And so if you guys are listening in, we are going to roll out a SLS lesson primer on ethics in AI. So do keep a lookout on that, and we will share more information when it is available. Yeah. So even if you are exploring AI tools for the first time and you're wondering, are there certain things that I should be more mindful of? Then we will encourage you to go and check out this SLS lesson. Maybe just go through some of the principles that we should bear in mind, so that we can safeguard our students' safety. Yeah, so maybe going back to about teaching and learning with AI, Alexis, wondering if you have seen any changes in the way that your students respond when you use AI tools in class.
They definitely, because they're not using the AI directly, but it's through the, through Google Form and all that. But what the students told me is that they find it very encouraging, because the feedback they give, they phrase it in a way that is very encouraging to the students, especially if the students get it right. And they like the feedback that is given to them, because it helps to so-called feed forward, so that they know what is the next thing they should do.
Yeah, I think it's kind of really like having your own personalized tutor next to you, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so instead of just having one teacher, maybe you have like multiple assistants, teaching assistants next to you to really help the student. And I think we can all really benefit from that, especially our students. Yeah.
I think at the same time, it also assists the teachers. I think the teachers do feel that there's this extra thing that we can go to. Be it ChatGPT or even other AI tools. I think for myself, other than using the language feedback assistant as I mentioned, I also have gone into ChatGPT to ask for feedback for writing, because language assistant LFA gives us the basic language mechanics, but it doesn't give me feedback on content. So using other tools like, for example, ChatGPT, or even this other tool that my colleague actually introduced to me called LexPage, it provided content kind of feedback. Like it will tell you, the introduction can be further expanded to do this and that. So it provided my students that extra feedback on content and how they can better improve their writing, not just looking at the language mechanics that we mentioned about. So I think it's a combination of tools, but as teachers, I also need to know how to prompt it well. So I think we will correct. Yeah, that's right. Because as I play around with it, it just gives you funny things if you do not know how to sieve. And I think just now in our earlier discussion with Alexis, we said the prompts are important. The system doesn't give us everything that we actually want to teach our students. We need to know how to prompt it. And that's where, as teachers, that's what we need to do, because these tools are just our assistant to support us, and that prompts that is required is necessary with our knowledge that we have, a professional knowledge. That's where we need to prompt it to give us what we need, so that we can actually support our students better.
So we have spoken a lot about the different tools, right, that you all have been introduced to. So in terms of student reception, how well are your students receiving these tools? Have you used these tools with your students, and how do they perceive it?
I think generally for my students, that smart search tool that has been rolled out, it depends on which stage the students are at. Of course, the initial stage, they are excited about it. They are impressed by it, but whether or not they continue using, it depends, because when I rolled it out, it was quite late in this year, so they are nearing their A levels. So if they still have to ask these type of basic questions to search for things, I think at this time it's maybe a little tough. So one of the things that we are also working on is something where it can help them. It's some sort of tutorial assistant where you can tell it that I don't know how to do my question, and what it does is it will ask you questions about your tutorial question. So I have actually what we intend to do is to tie it together with the tutorial itself, so that before the students come into class, sometimes they come into class and they just circle all the question numbers because they just don't know how to do. Can we guide them through the thinking and also figure out what they are trying to tackle? Because I think the difficulty in, let's say, chemistry, JC questions is that there's a lot of sub-skills that are required. So that's why sometimes if students don't know how to do the tutorial question, it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what was it that they didn't know. Was it the primary school stuff that they didn't know, or the secondary school stuff that they didn't know, or was it really chapter specific? Yeah, so I think as we roll these tools out and we talk to more students, we sometimes get their feedback and say, what do you like about this? What do you think you can improve? And one of the things they mentioned was how typical, very simple questions, we will be able to give them the right responses. But for more complicated things, it might not give them a very good response. And unlike ChatGPT, when it starts giving one or two bad responses, they will say, no, I'm never going to use it again. So these are certain things that we are also working on how to improve the accuracy of this, because it's not as easy as going to ChatGPT, type in a prompt, and we also know that even ChatGPT hallucinates. Yeah.
Actually, there's a hack for the ChatGPT to make it more reliable in that sense. Recently, before the appraiser came out, I was trying to use AI for comments writing, remarks writing.
Yeah.
So I realized that the first time I ran the text through ChatGPT, didn't follow all my instructions. Then through Zapier, I put in a second call to ChatGPT to check that all this is done and to change accordingly. So then it actually became better. What came out became better. Yeah.
So I guess an iterative approach is sometimes needed for ChatGPT to prompt it. Yeah, just in case our audience is wondering what is Appraiser, it's actually a tool that's developed by GovTech to actually help to generate testimonials. Yeah, so if you are interested in it, you can go to go.gov.sg/appraiser, for more details. So maybe it will be good for us to start thinking about our AI features. We're so excited to really share what is already available in SLS. So actually, one of the latest features, we have two AI features that are currently available in SLS since June 2023. The first of which is actually the adaptive learning system. So we'll try to show a demo of how the adaptive system actually looks like.
Okay, so over here you can see that we are in the student's account. So if we were to click on the left-hand side corner, we will actually see under resources, we will see adaptive learning. So we can click on that now. So for students who are entering it for the first time, they will actually get some profiling questions, which will help them better determine how the students are like. So over here you can see that there's a system which says, there's a message that says, let's learn more about you. So over here we will answer the questions. This will help us to determine the student engagement level as well as the student's self-efficacy level.
Yeah, so the AI will eventually use all of this information to determine, the kind of content, the number of maybe assessment items that should be given to this student. So all of these are essential information that the AI actually takes in, and from there recommends specific learning pathways.
Yep.
Yeah, so this ALS is actually available to Primary 5 and Primary 6 mathematics students and teachers. So if you fall into the above category, you can actually just jump into SLS, use the View as Student account.
Yep, you have
and
the
then,
View as Student.
Yeah, and you can actually try this out on your own also.
So over here, we have just set our targets in terms of the number of concepts we want to master for this week, as well as the amount of time we want to spend on the system. So now we will go into one of the topics. So we'll go into decimals, for example. So over here, there are 3 different learning modes. So one of the learning mode is called guided learning. So as you can see that this is the recommended learning mode. And we also have challenge mode and revision mode. Now revision mode is actually only available after mastering the concepts. So we go into guided learning mode, please.
Another encouraging message. So I think, sometimes the students just need to be encouraged, like when they take the small little steps. And I think students have found it really motivating to just hear from this AI learning companion at the side.
So over here, we can see that there are some videos in guided learning mode. Now, so the guided learning mode actually provides a lot of scaffolding for the students. It helps the student to actually build their understanding along the way. So it provides a lot of scaffold, it guides students' learning. So we go down to the next few pages. So along the way, there will actually be questions for them to rate the activity so as to see the student engagement level in terms of how engaged the students are and how much they like the videos. So if the system determines that this student doesn't really like videos, then maybe there'll be less videos being recommended to them. So we can go down. So after the videos, they will actually provide questions to assess the students' learning. So over here, you can see that there are some questions being introduced. So for these answers, right, you can, once you press submit for the answer, the feedback will actually tell the student what exactly the student has gotten wrong. So all this content is actually prepared by our CPDD Math branch. So they have populated the content accordingly, so we can be assured that this will be based on curricular standards.
Yeah. So you can also see that the students actually given a second try. So it's not like the moment they get wrong, they immediately have the answers reviewed to them. I think it's important that they look at the scaffolded feedback that's given, and then they have the opportunity to try again. Yeah.
So the number of tries is limited to 2. So the student can keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, and even after they do not get the question correct in the second try, the full solution will be reviewed to them, and then they can learn from there also.
So I understand that over here some of you are math teachers, right? So seeing this ALS, will you all be inclined to get your students to try this, or have you all tried it already?
Actually, for my students, right, actually I got them to try the percentage chapter as an introduction before I even started teaching the chapter. Because like you said, there is this guided portion, right? So it was something that I thought the students can have some knowledge, prior knowledge, before they started. We started going through the details. So my students are also of higher ability in terms of math. So this was something that they actually found it quite fun that they could just play with as well. So now that we have finished teaching, it's actually exam period in primary school, it will probably be something to encourage them to go back and look at the revision now, just to look at some of the revision topics that they can look at and revise. So after my students tried it that time, they actually said it was quite fun, and the basic of that particular topic was it did help them in the beginning. Then after that, I continued with the teaching in class, and all that. So it was a good prior kind of like intro to my actual lesson.
Yeah, so I think the ALS can actually be used in many different lesson scenarios. So like what you have mentioned, you can actually assign, you can't assign it. You can actually get
assign it.
Yes, you cannot assign it. Okay, that's a myth. Sorry. So you can actually direct the students to go into like what we showed just now, the adaptive learning, and have them learn a topic even before they come to class. Right, and then from there, the teachers can also view like how many students have mastered that particular concept and carry on in class from there. Or you can use it in class, maybe to teach a certain topic, because the students can progress at different pace. The question that I receive might be different from the question that my classmate is receiving. And I think students find that quite interesting sometimes. Like, how come you got different question? Then it generates some sort of buzz, and they can help one another out also. And you can also use it for reinforcement of learning after lessons or even for revision.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is actually a tool that can be used for, different points of learning. Yeah.
I think it would be exciting to try and use it. Currently, I'm teaching primary 3, so didn't really get a chance to use it. But I mean, if we can kind of integrate it, like the guided learning part, with some of the Edpuzzle kind of features, and in addition to that, comes to adaptive learning. Perhaps when the students are, they're stuck someplace and they can ask an AI kind of like, explain to me or explain until I understand kind of thing. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, then the AI would kind of craft and customize and change it and tweak it until they understand. Yeah.
I think that's the eventual hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think another feature for all you math teachers out there is actually the feedback assistant math. I'm not sure if you guys have tried it, but it's available. This one is available to all math teachers. I think even if you're not a math teacher, you can also go in and try. Yeah, so maybe we can have a look at how it actually works. Yeah, so while the screen is loading up, right, actually there are already quite a number of resources that are available for FA Math. If you can go to the community library and just search FA-Math.
library.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Community Gallery, yeah. So there are some resources available in Community Gallery. So if you go in there, search FA-Math, you can actually find 4 different question banks where we have populated, different questions for various topics. There is fractions for primary level, which I think maybe our guests might be quite keen in, and also for lower sec math, there is
We have percentage, we have algebraic expressions, and so on.
Yeah, so if you are thinking, maybe I don't want to start from scratch or I just want to play around with it first, you can actually just go to Community Gallery and use these tools and assign it to your students.
Yeah, because this is out of the box questions. So this will actually help the teachers to be able to just plug and put it into their SLS lesson. So it'll be much easier. So we hope to reduce the teacher effort in that.
Yeah, so let's look at this question now. So it's I think it's an indices question. So as you can see, students actually have the ability to press the hint at the side. So if they really are stuck and they cannot even begin, they can actually just press the hint, which asks them to recall the law of indices, where if there's a negative power, it actually converts to the reciprocal. So let's just try answering the question. Okay, so you can see that when the student actually types in the answer, there's a little red cross at the side. So what FA Math does is it provides a step-by-step evaluation. Yeah. So it's not just at the end then student receives the feedback, but even along the way, they are prompted to see whether they are on the right path or maybe they are not on the right path. Yeah, so you can see now the difference is that there is a green color circle, which means that they're on the right track. So this also encourages them to continue on.
So you can see the hint actually changes along the way based on your inputs.
Yep. And all of these hints are actually auto-generated already. So it's not like, teachers, you have to think of all the possible steps and then key in the corresponding feedback or evaluation. But these are already all prepared.
But of course, if you choose to, you want to customize the feedback. So there are certain things that you always remind your students about. You can actually include it inside. So you can include your teacher voice inside the system as well.
Yeah, so as you can see, it is also important, especially for math, I think precision, number of significant figures. So you can also input whether or not you want the eventual answer to be 2SF, 3SF, so on and so forth. Yeah, and that will help the students to actually have this practice eventually when they go for tests. Yeah, so that is how FA Math actually works.
Yep. The randomization. So over here you can see that this question is randomized. So what does it mean? It actually means that you can generate different forms of the same question. But once the student refreshes, or actually different students will get different questions. So you can see it's zoomed in right now. Yeah. But in order to have this function available, so for example, you want to have a few of the same questions, right? You actually need to have a few versions. So question 1, question 2, question 3. So what you do is you start a question and you add it in later on under your start resources.
Yeah. So you have to copy and paste the question maybe 10 times, and then when the students receive it, even different students might receive different values within this FA Math feature. So I think that's something that's quite interesting. It gives you kind of like unlimited, really unlimited questions to play around with and for students to practice.
And also we have also prepared a playlist. So like we are actually starting to create more videos on like how to actually create these FA Math questions. So for teachers who are interested to create these FA Math questions and they need a bit of help along the way, we can refer you all to our playlist.
Yeah, the link is actually shown on the screen below. So these videos will continually be populated. Yeah, so do continue to check back in and see how you can craft your own FA Math questions.
Or y'all can let us know what kind of
Yeah.
videos y'all would want, what kind of questions y'all want to create, then we can do it accordingly.
Yeah, because FA Math is also available for many different math question types. So just now what we saw was a multi-step question, but it can also do graphs and geometry. It can do written arithmetic. So there are many, many different possibilities that you can explore.
I think it's very impressive.
And then
I wish I had this when I was in primary school, which was not too long ago. Yeah, but I can't help but wonder, because some of these things that we are talking about here are for, even though it's multi-step, it is for a simple skill. And I'm thinking about the JC context. By the time I go to JC, the amount of skills that they need, how do I actually know, how would the let's say ALS figure out, this is actually the student's issue. If they get the question wrong, answer it incorrectly, there are too many things that come into play. So how do they pinpoint which is the thing that they need to improve on?
So the adaptive learning system, right, there's actually a learner model behind it. So if at first, based on one question, the system is unable to determine it accordingly, right, there will be multiple questions that appear that actually the system will judge based on the different responses. So it's based on cumulative responses rather than an individual response. So that will take some time for the system to establish.
If we're able to gather the information about the students' learning gaps from the FA Math, I mean, that would be very useful for teachers to see where the shortfalls are, and also to get to know the student in terms of their learning profiles better. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I tried with word problems. I think that is also a very that's a very useful way in which we can use it. Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the reasons why FA Math was created was also because actually a lot of teachers do provide feedback that on SLS it's very difficult to give word problems, to assign word problems to students because of the whole step-by-step feedback kind of thing. So I hope FA Math will actually help to target part of this.
Yeah, so so that is FA Math, and I think we're really glad to hear all of this feedback because we're always working to want to improve the systems that we have, make it more catered to the teaching and learning needs of teachers. So if you do have feedback, always you can always write into us, drop a comment down below. Yeah, so these are the two features that are currently already available for you to explore in SLS. So we have two new upcoming features. So just to give you a sneak peek of how these new feedback assistants would look like. For first feature is the language feedback assistant. Okay, so you can see here that we have some screens of how the Lang FAEL would actually look like. Yeah, so if you go to the teacher's view, so this might be quite familiar to you already. After you have assigned the student a question and they have submitted, this is what it would look like at the teacher's point of view. So you can see that the language feedback assistant actually picked up on some of the more common grammatical errors, even co-location errors, spelling errors, and they all appear.
Spelling, all the very basic language error.
Yeah,
punctuation
punctuation
as well.
Yeah, and this is also localized to our Singapore context. So the model has been trained, or the AI has actually been trained on examples from our Singapore schools. So you can rest assured that this is actually more catered to, the local context. So from the comment cards, right, teachers also have the agency to click on them and provide additional feedback. For example, do check through your work more carefully. We all know sometimes our students can be quite careless. Yeah, so we can actually edit the feedback cards. And we can also give the more comments in general by clicking on the teacher comments part. So in this case, you can press the add button in teacher's comments, and then we can encourage the student, because we will have a better idea after reading through the entire essay, maybe some things to look out for in the content, certain things we want to highlight or praise the student on. Yeah, so we can post this, and after that, it will be released to the student. So by doing this, we actually help to cut down on the amount of time that teachers might need to spend picking out all these small little errors. And it provides already just a first draft for teachers to just quickly look through, review, and then release to the students. Yeah, so Adeline, I think you have experience as one of our pilot schools, so maybe you want to share more about how students feel.
Yeah, I think with the LFA, like I shared earlier, I think the students were glad to see that feedback that were actually given. So I work with a team of P5 English teachers for this, and I think on the whole, I think we were quite impressed that it was quite accurate. Of course, we were the ones trying to train the system, so there were still things that we were irritated about. But I mean, with feedback and all, I think it does help to make the system better. So we did see that the language mechanics were picked up, so we were quite happy with that. And we had to just add on a bit more, things that we wanted the system to know. And also the teacher comments at the bottom. Like I said, some of us added in our feedback using maybe just using another AI system to give the comment, or even using our own school rubrics. And I put in the rubric just to tell the students, hey, this is where you are, and how can you further improve. So it did help to save a bit of time looking at it, but because we were in that pilot phase, so we were really looking through it more carefully. So it took a bit of time for the teachers, but overall I think we were quite satisfied with the system. So we did do a quick survey to check in with our students how they felt about it. I think a lot of them do give positive feedback to say that this is something that they do see, they can use. And I think what's important is the teachers need to note that when they create, they need to use it, put it in a quiz that is teacher mark. Yeah. And not just assign, because I think when we do a free response question, it doesn't actually allow the teacher to mark. So I mean, we could do more by putting in more, like adding more marks to it instead of just a 1 mark, so that it can become more rich for the students. It's all possible. So I think that feedback portion of it was what was the most useful, because I think most teachers, I think English language teachers, we are always in pain whenever trying to mark compo, right? Because the essays are so long. So so this actually do help us in terms of the marking, at least pick up that quick language mechanics, that's the basics, so that it is something to remind the students. Just simple, even spelling. I think spelling errors were something. What helps was that after they pick out, they give the student the right spelling word. How do you spell it? Instead of us having to, if we are manually marking it, we have to probably write down what is the right thing. Yeah. So here in the system, it picks out, okay, this is the word that's spelled wrongly. What is it actually provides suggestions, multiple suggestions, what is the correct word. Yeah, because sometimes the system still try to guess what the students is. So sometimes they even pick up names and they say it's a wrong spelling word. But we need to train the system and say, hey, this is not a wrong spelling. But they also do have times that they give multiple suggestions because they were not sure. So the teachers, we had to go in to just pick out what was it that we wanted the students to write. Yeah. So I think that did help. Instead of having to, type in the right word for the students, it was already highlighted for them.
Yeah.
That's very good to hear. That's actually very useful.
Yeah.
Like, actually one other thing to note is that the feedback can actually be customized based on the student's profile. So
Yes,
like
that's
the
right.
different learning levels. So like for JC students, it will be a different level as compared to primary school students, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think by having it in a teacher mark quiz, actually it allows the teachers to actually go in and have a first look first, because we understand that this might be something that is quite new. So teachers would want to have control over, like, what is the things that this AI is actually giving to my students, is it really accurate? So by having it as a teacher mark quiz, it actually allows the teacher to just look through first, review, maybe there are some things that you want to edit, there are certain, maybe you teach your class in a certain way or use certain terms that might be unique to your own class that you might want to add in. And I mean, you also know your students best and like what kind of feedback they would prefer. So I think that would be quite helpful. So, yeah.
For the science feedback that I gave, so how it works was that I added some features where if the students really don't know, they look at the question and they don't know how to understand, they can type, I don't know, and it will actually scaffold the process to them. And if they get it wrong, they can try and try again. And based on the feedback, they can adjust their answers and try as many times as they want. Yeah, until they, get the answer. But I also added another feature called I give up, so they type that answer is revealed. Yeah, and a lot of them, they use that feature, but it's not so much because they give up, but because they actually want to see the actual answer. Like, and compare it with what they have written, their responses. Yeah.
Yeah, so just now what we shared about the Lang FAEL is actually more for basic language errors, but we hear that actually teachers want to also get some feedback on content. So we do actually have another present that is coming up in R20, which is it is a present, it's a gift. That is coming up in R20, and it's called the Short Answer Feedback Assistant. So we'll play a short video now to show you its features. Okay, so I hope that you guys are as excited as us with this new feature. So maybe just to hear from our guests, how would you be using this in class?
I mean, not just only the class, but I think it'll be very useful, especially with the scan to mark feature that's coming up. Digitizing the different departments, worksheets and resources. Yeah, and leveraging on it to see how we can, gather feedback about how students are learning, how effectively they're learning, and also to provide the scaffolds to them as well. Yeah.
I think just now, in the short video, I can think of, short answers, basically like we were talking about, just now we were just talking a lot about writing, but in English we have short answers in comprehension. That's another pain to mark, right? So probably with that, maybe that it can be useful, that it can provide the students some structure in terms of having to answer and how they should answer in complete sentences. I think sometimes in comprehension for the upper primary especially, their answer tend to be incomplete. They may, answer one part of the question. Yeah, they just because of this and then that's it, but it's not complete. We normally require them to actually do it in a more information kind of thing. So I try to teach the students by say, you look at the marks. If it's just a 1 mark, probably a short answer will probably be sufficient. But if it's a 2-mark question, I think you require a little bit more information. But they sometimes don't get that. What is that little bit more? So with this, hopefully, I need to try it to see how we can further hint or further scaffold the students. Might probably be more helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, this will definitely help students to be more conscious of like how many points they need to answer by, and the immediate. Actually, the the faster feedback turnaround will hopefully help the students as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's the most beneficial part of it, right? That students, sometimes when they submit their work, after we mark, by the time we return to them, they'll look at it, did I write this? And then they'll just chuck it into their bag or look at the scores. I think this gives them a close to immediate feedback. And I think, especially in JC chemistry, we have a lot of explanation questions. And I like that in the video, there was this part where they said, they will say, each point is worth 1 mark.
Yeah.
And I think that really tells the student, you got this, you didn't write this answer. And I think that's very, very important. One thing that as I watched that, I was just off the top of my head, I'm just thinking, if it gives me the feedback as a teacher when I read through the feedback, the answer and the feedback, and I push it back to students, if the feedback is not accurate, it means I have to do double the work actually, because now I need to look at my student's answer. Instead of typing out my feedback, now I need to read the feedback and say, I disagree with it, I'm going to delete everything and type again. So that's what I'm actually wondering about the accuracy of this. Of course, this is not out yet, so when it's out, I will try it and then see how this can be, whether it is very accurate. Because if it's accurate, I think it does have a lot of benefits to it. Yeah.
So when I rolled out the science, the feedback mechanism to my students, what I did was, because I have access to all the Google Docs where they get their feedback, so I'm able to see whether the feedback is accurate or not. But prior to that, of course, I do test it out a bit also. So as and when, if I see there's some issues, then I would just have to go in to adjust the prompt. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is something that teachers can also do, because when you are dealing with short answer feedback assistant, there's actually a field called suggested answer that you have to fill in. So we would encourage teachers to put in not just the marks that are allocated. Perhaps if there's something that you really want in the answer, you can also include it in the suggested answer field in order to tweak. And then from there, once R20 is out, you can play along to see whether or not the feedback given by short answer FA is sufficient enough. If not, we can always go back and adjust what we can do as teachers. At the same time, we are also open to feedback from teachers. We'll be gathering ground sentiments and seeing how it is actually like and what we can do on the system level at the back end as well. So I think there is flexibility on both sides to actually make sure that short answer FA will be able to provide the kind of reliable and accurate answers that we want. Yeah.
So
But
also,
I just want to add that I think it is also important to realize that the system cannot be foolproof immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, and it needs time to learn. So, I mean, from doing the LFA experience, that was something that we really experienced. It is really not like 100%, wow, this is amazing, and sometimes we tend to also go very quickly to compare. Oh, this other system is better, you can get this better. But I think it is to allow the system to also learn that how we can further tweak it, further improve on it, that will help everybody lah. I think that is important to also remember. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think when more students and teachers actually use this, we'll also be able to get more data. We'll be able to see hey, did the teacher actually go in and edit every single one? Then we'll know that hey, maybe for this particular topic or question type, there needs to be certain additional things that we need to consider. Yeah. So with greater use, of course, we will have more data, and from there we can always refine the system.
Yeah.
what I've learned is that sometimes if you have to split the question down to several calls rather than having a whole chunk at once, it actually makes it more accurate. So that's something that they can consider as well when designing the lessons.
So to support teacher in all the use of the feedback assistance, we will gradually provide more resources to actually support the teachers' use in it.
Yeah.
So for example, like how to create better prompts, or like how to craft your suggested answers in a certain way such that your answers can be marked in the way that you would like.
Yeah, social answer feedback assistance is actually subject agnostic, meaning it is applicable to all subjects actually. So we hope that, teachers, regardless of what subject you actually teach, you will be able to tap into this AI tool to really support your teaching and learning in class. Yeah, so I think we've had quite a rich discussion here today. I really hope that you guys are excited by the features that are upcoming and also what is already currently available. So maybe just before we end, do you guys have any words of encouragement to people who are, just starting out their AI journey out there? What tips they can like learn from you gurus? Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a guru.
Okay, I'm a guru either.
But I think it is to really experiment, try it out. I think it also shows our students that we are willing to try, so they should be willing to try. Because sometimes we ask them to try, but we don't show it to them that we are trying new tools. I think they also get excited about that. So just play around with these tools, and I think more importantly, learn from other people. Like I've learned so
Yes.
much from both Alexis and Adeline today, and share more also.
I agree totally. Yeah, because I think if you don't try on your own, you will never know what you can do. Of course, with people who is knowledgeable, like I also learned so much from both of them today. It is really something to explore. I think there's so many tools out there that we can try and use. So even in schools, among teachers, I think it's to encourage one another to actually even just try. If you try, you learn something, hey, share with me, and we can actually exchange ideas. I think that was useful. And one of my colleagues who shared with me quite a few AI apps that she recently used. I was like, wow, so impressive. So, after she actually shared, I went to try on my own. Even though I didn't use every one that she actually shared, I just used one or two, and I was happy enough to, continue on. So I think that is something that is very important, to just be motivated to try, and you can see what you get. Yeah.
Always ask yourself, like, what if you can do this? The sky's the limit now. You don't know how to do, you just ask AI how to do this. And it can even surf the web right now. Yeah, so, and there's also like things like God mode, kind of AI that really guide the entire thing. Even it doesn't work today, with advancements in technology, it might work tomorrow, so try again tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can also encourage you guys, if you are quite confused about what tools to try out there, you can try the ones that are already in SLS, because that is something that, we have been developing here at MOE, and that might be an easy way just to get your fingers into the water and just test out these AI tools.
So we actually have a question from the ground. So we are hearing a lot of good stuff about AI right now. So how about challenges? Are there anything that we should avoid or be wary of when we are using it with students?
I think one of the challenges that we have sort of alluded to is how, if it's student-facing, sometimes we'll have some issues where what if the response is wrong. And that's why I see a lot of value of having the teacher there. And especially in the classroom, where sometimes when you use ChatGPT or other AI tools, can we facilitate that form of discussion to show the students that it's okay if the thing gives you something wrong. You need to go and verify. And that's why it doesn't replace teachers. It is there to help
Complements teaching practice.
Right. So for example, one of the things I've done in class is experimental planning is the things that students don't like the most. So I just took the entire question and I dumped it inside and asked ChatGPT to plan. And as it wrote out the answer, the first paragraph was amazing. After that, it just went everywhere but the correct answer. And I asked my students, what do you think of the answers? And they could tell that at first they were impressed, and you could see the look on their faces changing to, I wouldn't say disgust, but they were like, what is this ChatGPT spouting? And I think these are the challenges that they might face if they try to do it at home. But when we facilitate that in class and we start asking them questions, what do you think are the issues here? How can you improve on this answer? Then it really builds that mental muscle that they have towards using AI tools. And I think that is actually one of the challenge itself. How do you get students to be responsible?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think when I wrote out that self-feedback mechanism for the science, I was expecting it to half my work. Actually, it doubled it. Because lots of nights experimenting and then seeing how I can make the prompts more accurate and all that, then having to check their work. Then finally, I also mark their work to make sure that the answers are correct. Yeah, I mean the feedback given is accurate as well. So initially, do not expect it to half your work that much. Yeah.
But,
So you will double first. Double first before you half.
Maybe quadruple first. Then.
Yeah, I think I shared earlier, is the education. Is whether we kind of share with the students the pros and cons. And I think I agree with him to, show the students, you want to use AI, sure, let me show you what ChatGPT do. And let them themselves see, these are not too accurate, not too right. And probably that will help to motivate them to realize how to listen better. I think it's that skill that they need to pick up from young lah. It's really something that they need to know how to check facts, find the source, and not just believe that Google is everything and anything lah, and that everything is true out there. So I think that is something that we need to constantly remind students as well. So there are definitely dangers. I don't think we should hide the dangers, and tell the students, no, it's perfect, you can do it all. But it's to actually show them what are the dangers, So recently I was just sharing with my students about fake news. We were talking about fake news, and we were telling them that you can alter images just so that there can be fake news that available. So I actually showed the students, the trending apps, how you can change yourself to be, very young, in the high school days kind of photos. So I was just showing them that kind of apps to say that, hey, do you think that if this picture is put up, do you think it's real? And how are you going to really tell whether this is a real picture and fake? And how do you go about verifying a picture and make sure it's correct and accurate? So I think these are skills and reminders that we need to constantly drill into students. Of course, sometimes they may not listen and all. I think hopefully we plant these seeds in them that it grows, and as they grow older. So I think that's something that is important, that we should not let go. That it is something, things like this needs to be re-emphasized and need to reiterate all the time, and not just say, oh, they are independent enough to know, because they are, after all, still students. I mean, at primary school even worse, they are young. They really need to learn that listening skills. Yeah.
So as it is with every single tool that we push out, right, it takes time for us to learn how to best use that tool. And with time comes better quality in terms of the feedback that it provides. So another thing about it is that one of the reasons why all these tools are being pushed out is actually we hope to be able to customize feedback to the students' level. Because as teachers, I think one of the greatest problems we face is the class size. We cannot provide customized feedback to each and every single student all the time. It will be very, very tired. So through these tools, we are hoping to be able to provide more customized feedback to the students.
Yep. I think we're starting with SLS, at least for primary school, is quite it's a safer platform per se. I mean,
It's
it
a
is
guide
guide.
rail.
Yeah, there's a guide there that is already guided for the students, and that can be a place to start. And if you're afraid of whatever dangers, then start from there. I must say. I mean, as they grow older to the JC, of course they can explore much further. They are older. They have, their mental capacity is definitely better to be able to discern much better. So as primary school teachers, we really need to be very mindful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely important, even at primary school level, to teach students about the dangers of AI sometimes.
Yeah.
I've seen my students, I think because they saw me using AI, so they started doing their own research. They started searching for AI tools where they don't need to log in to use, kind of like a ChatGPT. And they found one, actually. I caught them using it. Yeah, so, even at primary school level, we have to let them know that not everything they see there is accurate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the teacher's role is still really important in facilitating not just, how they use these tools, but also keeping them aware of these tools. Yeah, and I think it's really good how you guys have, taken that first step to just go in and explore, and also, not just, it might be quite difficult at the start, but hopefully once you get into the mood of it, when you can see, the benefits and see the value of these tools, and you integrate it with your teaching practices, hopefully it gets easier and easier. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing, the challenges that you guys face as well. I believe our audience out there can definitely relate to them. So we're all not alone in this journey. And we just really want to thank the guests for taking the time out to come to this SLS Spotlight today. We also want to thank all of our audience online for tuning in. Do continue to give us your comments and feedback down below, and we'll try to address them. If not, then we will see you at the next SLS Spotlight session. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.